welcome back to Queen City Country. We're now joined in studio by Joshua Quimby. Welcome, we're so excited to get to know you.
Thanks for having me, I'm excited to be here.
So let's dive right in. How has being from Eastern Connecticut informed your songwriting?
You know, it's a funny question because I feel like a lot of times when people are like, man, how'd you get into country music? You're from like New England, right?
Yeah.
But you know, people don't know what it's like where I'm from, and it's a small town. You know, you got your cows, you got your horses. I don't really think I ever processed it really at the time that was the case, but more recently I've kind of come to my roots and trying to write songs about that, and you know, just focus on like, I'm grateful to have that background, and I do feel like it inspires some really good and authentic country music.
We like all music, and we don't like to try and pinpoint an artist into one category, and for you it's hard because we hear Dylan and Tom Waits and John Prine and Hank Williams Sr., but you have been described as Americana. So for you, does that category fit? How would you describe Americana music?
Yeah, I feel like it's generally Americana. I do think that Americana is an interesting word because it can imply a lot of different kinds of sounds. I feel like these days Americana kind of implies more of like a rock edge, or sometimes people just kind of use it at anything that doesn't like kind of conform to what pop radio country music sounds like. I would argue my music is just country music, but you know, Americana is a word that I think I used to use like a few years ago, just kind of because it was kind of like what would imply not what you hear when you listen to Morgan Wallen, right? You know?
Yeah.
But not that I mean, you know, whatever, you know.
Like a little broader.
Yeah,
a little bit broader.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of, but I think it's just country music and folk music, some blues. That's kind of what I try to do.
Your song, The Barn, from your album Back Home is one of our favorites here at QCC. It has a nostalgia to it. It feels very authentic. And it talks about changing times. You mentioned, you know, leaving a town and then coming back, and it feels very different. Where does this reverence from or for the past or for a time kind of long gone come from?
I find it sad to see, like, you know, my hometown, you know, changing and evolving. And not changing and evolving isn't a bad thing, but I just like to see, like, you know, parts of the history of that town stripped away. You know, the house that my parents bought was built on what wasn't a dairy farm, just like, you know, a few decades prior. And so the backyard had tall grass, there was like old farming equipment in the backyard and whatnot. And, you know, since then, now, you know, when I go home, it's just kind of lost its character, you know, and there's still a lot of that character in the town that I don't think it will ever change just because it's a town so hell-bent on keeping that, but just seeing those small changes, it hurts my heart, you know.
Yeah.
I just have some kind of nostalgia or sentimental value, I guess, attached to it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that song's about.
Okay, well that growth and that change isn't necessarily unique to your hometown, it's across the country. With that being said, do you feel like a song like The Barn helps you connect to people all over America?
I'd say definitely, and I think this is a thing that a lot of people, yeah, like you're saying, a lot of people from more rural areas experience this. It's like that kind of like, you know, the growth and development, tearing down old ways, you know. I do believe that it's a song that almost anybody with that similar background or experience can connect with, and definitely I've seen that, you know, from my fans. People have told me that it's impacted them.
Your lyrics do feel very personal. It feels like we're looking right into your life when we hear your songs. How hard is it to share kind of the things that are on your heart and on your mind?
It's equally as cathartic to share my work as it is to write it for me, because I feel like it's like almost like releasing that emotion, you know, kind of putting it out there. And if somebody else connects with it, kind of like we were just talking about, like that makes me feel seen and understood.
So as you're writing a song, what comes first, the lyrics or the melody?
It really just depends on the song. A lot of times I have the lyrical idea first, or like a concept for a song that comes to my head, or even if it's just a phrase, and then I'll pick up my guitar and kind of go from there. But sometimes I have an idea for a riff or a chord progression.
All right, I'm really excited about this next question because you've talked about all the different influences on your music career, and we like to ask all our artists in studio who is on their musical Mount Rushmore. So you've got 4 to pick.
I think you got to put Bob Dylan at the very top. John Prine for sure. I think that there's a real rawness to what John Prine did in his career. I think 3 would be probably Hank Williams, because he was like the kind of the beginning of, like, you know, that kind of real like country music movement that like with kind of incorporated elements of that rock and roll. 4, just simply as a guitar player, where my roots are in guitar music, is Stevie Ray Vaughan. Absolutely.
Nice.
All the way.
All right, well, what's next for you?
Yeah, well, we had a big headline tour this year, and we did a bunch of other dates earlier in the year. We've just been really busy on the road, but I'm thinking of stepping back a little bit from touring and just really focusing on making some more records. Like I hope to do 2 more albums next year.
Well, Joshua, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you. Good luck.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you so much.
All right, and after the break, we'll be back with more Queen City Country.